Welcome to Bake to the Future. We bring you a fresh take on the latest trends and issues impacting the baking sector through exclusive insights and conversations. Brought to you by the American Bakers Association.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rasma Zvaners, ABA's Vice President of Government Relations, and today I'm joined by one of ABA's premium allied members, Corbion, to talk about how bakeries can improve their sustainability practices. Abby Cooley is Corbion's Vice President of Functional Systems and brings more than 2 decades of experience to the conversation. Welcome, Abby.
Thanks, Rasma. I appreciate you having me.
Great. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Let's start at the beginning. What is sustainability in the context of the food industry, and why is it increasingly important for businesses like bakeries to embrace it?
No, it's a great question, and I think sustainability is a topic that's been on the agenda for manufacturers, not only in food but other industries for years now, and it's increasingly important because I think it's on the minds of our consumers. It's important for our environment, and so I think it's something that everyone is talking about and now trying to figure out what are their plans around. And I think it's extremely important for the food industry because the food industry is definitely contributes to waste. When we think about consumer waste, 40% of the food produced in the U.S. ends up in a landfill, and it really has a major environmental impact. And so I think not just bakeries, but all food manufacturers have a responsibility to look at what we can do to reduce waste, but also look at our manufacturing footprint in ways that we can be more sustainable. And when we think about bakery is unfortunately one of the key contributors to that 40% of food going into the landfill. Categories like fresh fruits and vegetables and meat and bakery contribute to that. So I think we have a responsibility as an industry to tackle this issue within our bakeries.
So can you explain the triple bottom line concept and how bakeries can apply it to balance the social, economic, and environmental goals?
Yeah, for sure. So sustainability can really be defined by all three of these concepts: social, environmental, and economic. We looked at an IRI study that said that really environmental is really the one that most consumers resonate with when it comes to sustainability. But social impact and economic impacts are also growing as we look at some of the different consumer groups. All three of these things are critical. If we start out with environmental, so when we look at environmental, this is about recycling less waste, renewing, reuse, reducing carbon footprint, pollution, et cetera. This is one that's really tangible and people know a lot about. So if we look at all of the different generational groups, from boomers to Gen X to millennials and Gen Z, all of these groups, environmental resonates with those generations. So this is one that's it's really kind of table stakes. Everybody should be looking at this because all of their consumers are going to be looking for this. Then we think about social. So the social concept is really about human rights, fair trade, animal rights, making sure that what we're doing benefits society. This is another critical pillar that bakeries can think about as a pillar of sustainability. And when we think about that, especially the millennial and Gen Z groups are looking for products that promote these social benefits and are companies that position themselves around these areas. And then economic is, of course, something that I think all of us can get on board with. Sustainability undoubtedly is a way to not only increase sales, but gives you a competitive edge. Since consumers are looking for this type of messaging, this is something that bakers can talk about to connect with consumers. But also, if we think about the economic piece of it, if we're more sustainable, we're reducing our waste not only in our manufacturing facilities, but also in the distribution chain and also at the retail shelf. We're able to increase our profits by reducing less or by wasting less. So like I said, I think all three are really important to consumers, should be important to us as manufacturers. I think that everybody needs to be focused on all three of these and really understanding who their consumers are and which of these three resonate the most with those consumers.
Thank you. So thinking a little bit more broadly, how do you think the United Nations sustainability goals relate to the food and bakery industry?
Yeah, no, a great question. I think that for sure, they've got 17 goals, which all have a lot of merit. And two of those in particular, I think, really relate to the food industry. So the first one is goal number two. So goal number two is around zero hunger. And reducing hunger is obviously an issue we all need to continue to work on. And baked goods are a nutritional source of food that we need to be able to reach more people with while minimizing waste. And so I think the reduction of hunger at goal number two is critical. And then goal number 12. So goal number 12 is around responsible consumption and production. And this is one that, I think that if I look out in the baking industry, I think our members are working on this right now, and we need to continue to plan for our bakeries in the short term and the long term to be more responsible when it comes to production. So this could be reducing waste in our production facilities, being more energy efficient, reducing our carbon footprint, looking at our logistics planning to be more sustainable. It could be regenerative farming or environmentally friendly packaging. All of these would really contribute to goal number 12 of responsible consumption and production.
Interesting. So when I think more about bakeries, are there any unique challenges that we have in this sector compared to other food sectors?
Yeah, I think, with baked goods, I think it's, like I said earlier, it's one of the key items contributing to food waste. And part of it is that shelf life and the perception of shelf life. So like fruits, vegetables, and meats, it's lower shelf life compared with other items if you think about the interior of the store. And so I think that's one of the bigger challenges is that how do we have enough shelf life to be able to reduce waste in the distribution chain, but also on the retail shelf and in our consumers' homes. So I think that's one key area I think that we have to be concerned about. And then also just, the transportation of baked goods from the production site to the retailers, being more efficient in that movement of the products is also critical. So with that short shelf life, we have it's more difficult to go into some of the warehouse settings with some of the baked goods and then onto retailers. So we have to think about how can we be more efficient in getting baked goods to the consumers as quickly as possible to extend extend the usability of the baked products.
I agree completely. So a question, we talked a little bit about, trying to balance social, economic, and environmental goals. And in that comment, you referenced millennials and Gen Z. I agree, they certainly prioritize sustainability, perhaps more so than others have. How do you think bakeries should respond to this trend in terms of, product development, marketing? What are things that they should be thinking about?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think that, as we approach product development or even renovation of products, so if we're trying to reformulate or repackage, whatever that product development looks like, I think bakeries should first start and really do some pre-work of who are their consumers, who are they trying to reach, and what are those messages that resonate the most. And then what are they looking for? Are they looking for a more sustainable package? Are they looking for cleaner label, which sometimes kind of ties into the whole sustainable piece? And what are those messages that they're trying to achieve? And then pick, a couple of the key ones and then focus on those as they do their product development. Certainly we can't make every aspect of a product tick all the check boxes for sustainability, but I think really trying to figure out a couple of those things that would resonate with consumers up front. And then I would suggest that manufacturers work with their suppliers. So as you're formulating a new formula, if you're working on packaging, talk to those suppliers to see, are there more sustainable versions of the current ingredients that you're sourcing to go into that product? Do they have a different packaging that can achieve the same shelf life goals and that maybe has that is more recyclable or has a better angle when it comes to sustainability? Finally, I think it's about product development, but also when you're in that product development process, can you also think about the production process that it's going to take to make that new product or to renovate how you're making a current product? Can you make it in a more efficient way where you can talk about a reduced energy story, a reduced water usage story? So I think it's both in the formula and how we're designing those in product development, but also how we're designing the production process as well. And all of those have pieces where there's a story that we can talk about to our consumers, especially the millennials and Gen Z who are interested in those stories.
So, what advice would you offer? I look across the ABA membership, and it's a wide spectrum of those that have very proactively engaged in sustainability efforts, and then perhaps those that are just starting. So, what advice would you give bakeries that are just beginning their sustainability journey? I mean, how can they set achievable and impactful goals? Because again, to your point, this is such it's a large topic, and I think sometimes people can feel a little overwhelmed. So do you have any tips that you may offer?
Yeah, for sure. It can be overwhelming because like I said, there's so many different things that can relate to sustainability. And I think the first thing really is just to sit down with your team and do a sustainability footprint assessment. So pull together different parts of your team, whether it be your leadership team, or maybe you have some team members from your production facility. Pull all of them together and start to talk about, what are we currently doing that could apply to sustainability? Where are some of those gaps? Just to kind of start the conversation. And then I think there's some tools online. There's the SDG assessment tool. If you just type that in, it pops up, and it's at sdgassessmenttool.com. And when you look at this tool, it's one where you can log in as a company and plug in some of the things that you're doing, some of the types of products that you're making. It helps you to understand maybe some of the gap areas that you might have. There's other tools besides this one that can be used if you type in SDG assessment. That can also be a nice way to help ask the right questions amongst your team of what you're doing and what you should be doing to be more sustainable. Another way is to work with an expert in the field. There's lots of consultants out there and others who have went through this journey. So those are some nice ways to pull in some expertise to help you figure out where to get started. And I think the biggest tip that I would have for bakeries that are just getting started is don't try to do everything at once. I mean, really, set some measurable, achievable goals. Find one thing to start with and really go from there. Because I think you want to start to build the confidence in your team that you can achieve your goals, but you also want to not have so many things going that you have too many things going on and you're diluting your efforts. So I think just starting to find one thing and go from there, and you'll be successful.
So once you've gone down that path and that you feel you're making some progress, why is it important for bakeries to craft and communicate their sustainability story? I mean, do you think that this has an impact on brand loyalty, consumer trust? What about sort of that communications element?
Yeah, I think the communications piece is critical, and the marketing piece. There was a study published by our IRI, and they said that 77% of consumers believe that sustainability is important when selecting products. And about 93% of consumers have maintained or increased their sustainable product purchases in the last year. And so with those kind of numbers, those are really big percentages. And I think so consumers are looking for sustainable products, and they will continue to buy and have more brand loyalty to products with a sustainable message. And another thing that we're finding is that consumers are also going out and doing some research ahead of time with products to find who are sustainable companies that maybe line up with their values. And so whether it's online marketing through social media platforms or online marketing on your websites, get those messages out there early, get them out there so that consumers who are going online to do that pre-research are seeing how you're contributing to a more sustainable future. And I think then, these numbers prove that consumers want to see those messages and are more loyal to brands that support them. And so I think with this in mind, I think it's critical for bakeries to communicate what they're doing now, what they're already doing, but also talk about your aspirations or your goals for the future. So maybe you're just in the beginning of your sustainable journey and you have goals over the next 3 to 5 years to make your production facility more sustainable or your operations more sustainable. It's okay to also go ahead and talk about the future and where you're headed, because I think A, that keeps you on track with your KPIs and your goals, but B, it also resonates with consumers that you want to continue the journey and you want to become more sustainable.
So I think we have probably time for one more question today. Looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest sustainability challenges and opportunities for the bakery industry?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is just continuing to fight waste. As we talked about, waste is a key component of sustainability, and continuing to find ways to increase shelf life and product consistency, while also balancing that with the desire for cleaner labels. And so consumers want a lot of things. They want us to be more sustainable. They want to balance that with cost. They want to balance it with cleaner labels. So being able to reduce waste while balancing shelf life, cost, and cleaner labels will be a big challenge. And then continuing to innovate, is that's kind of on the bakery side, but also for the ingredient suppliers, continuing to innovate in ingredients and improve our offerings on what we can do to enable bakers to be more sustainable is also critical as well.
That is all that we have time for today, but thank you so much, Abby. I think a lot of really good information. If you would like to learn more about sustainability issues and environmental regulations impacting the baking industry, ABA members can join the Energy and Environment Professionals Group. To get started, visit AmericanBakers.org.
Bake to the Future is brought to you by the American Bakers Association in partnership with Human Factor. To hear upcoming and past episodes, go to baketothefuture.org. Bake to the Future is produced by the ABA Marketing and Communications Department.